So hello everybody, welcome to this Ragic webinar. I'm Fabio, the speaker for today, as usual for the past, I don't know how many webinars, but at least a few. So again, welcome you guys here, and today we're going to talk about the database design fundamentals. This will be a kind of a different approach because rather than just telling you how to use some tools or how to go with the sheet design, I'm going to suggest a few different ways for your data processing to be smoother in terms of how you should design your sheets and make it easier to process for your colleagues, for everyone in your organization. And also some key points that you should make sure before actually having your database go online to prevent anything that you would that isn't ideal you would like to happen. And let's just wait for a few minutes for more people to join, and then I'll start with the webinar with all the content. And before the webinar, if there's a user called Tech Wizard LLC. You would like to be logged in during the webinar to your new account, but your system can't find it. Basically, you should be able to log into your account, your database account, with your user account by going into the home page, and then if your user account is in multiple database accounts, then you should be able to find it in here. When you see there's a lot of switch accounts here, that is for you to switch database accounts. And if you can't find that here, please send us an email to support@ragic.com and tell us your user account and your database account, and our support staff will be happy to have it solved for you. And just as we're waiting for more people to join, in the meantime, feel free to ask any questions now, and I'll provide the answer if I can as soon as possible. Or you can always ask any questions during the webinar at any time, and if possible, I can build a quick example, a quick prototype for you to also see visually, in addition to hearing me trying to answer you vocally. And for user Marcon U, I apologize if I don't pronounce your name correctly. Regarding parent and child relationships, there are quite a few different parent and child relationships, and basically it is more towards the reference subtable part and basically the creating relationships part. That is not what I plan to go through that much today, since I've went through building linking relationships in one of the previous webinars. But if I get a chance today and I have something similar, I could show some of the different relationships with you. But in the meantime, if you want to know this in more detail, feel free to go to review our previous webinars. I think that one is called building relationships. I have to check, but the name is something similar, definitely. All right, so I guess it's a good time to start our webinar, and yes, let's begin. So right now, I have a whole new blank database, which, of course, to start a database, you need to add new sheets, and in this case, also new tabs, since I don't have any tabs here. So let's do this really quickly. I believe most of you guys know how to add new sheets and new tabs by now. If not, then you can always go by the plus button here, or just simply click on add new sheet if you don't have any sheets in your home page yet. So I'm just gonna go add, first add a tab at the top right here. I'm gonna call this webinar, just for the sake of this webinar. And then the first sheet I'm gonna create is, I'm gonna call this an employee sheet, because for this example, I would like to have everything built from employees data. Create, and click on create. And yes, this is the new blank sheet that you will always see when you're just creating new sheets. And you should know that there are always quick templates on the side here, or you can just simply add your own fields, create how you like your sheets to have, which is what I'm personally going to do. So let's start creating a whole new employee sheet. So basically, generally the sheet logic for, I guess, 99.9% of the data users, or basically any computer users, your data usually goes from left to right and top to bottom in a similar format. So with this order, it will be best for you to put the most essential fields in the top part, and then if you would like to go, depends on how you would like to process your data. I would personally suggest don't go too much to the right, since sometimes people, when you're saving a sheet, people might miss fields on the right, since they'll just be used to scrolling up and down. So I'm going to just create a database sheet, and then you'll see what I'm going to say. So okay. Employee sheet, I'd say the first and foremost important field is their name. Their name, and sometimes you'll definitely need their phone number. Phone number and office extension. So you'll see that I put the phone number and office extension on the right, because I would like to keep them organized since they're more related. So for example, phone number and office extension, they're more towards the phone side, so they can be organized in the same area. And of course, there are many other fields. There are also many field types you can choose from. Since there's a phone number, when I entered phone number, it automatically guesses it's a phone field with a preset format. And office extension, basically you can have it free text if you just want to make it as a text, or you can also choose other field types, such as, I say numbers is a good field type, but just make sure that you always have a good field type to use from. And then regarding the name part, let's go further. Department. Again, also select the right field type for this. If you have basically basically a fixed format of departments, basically I would suggest using a selection field. And making a selection field, making your choices, so later your users can enter their data they can only enter with the selections that are available. So I'm just gonna make a selection field really quickly. Administration, human resources, sales. All right, that's 5 departments. Level can be a numeric field. joined date, and address. Or I'm going to save this for now. And as you can see, I have seven fields right now. And if you would like to have them more organized, so you don't want to have the column A here have 5 fields, and then column D here has 7 fields looking unbalanced, you can always drag your fields after saving it. This will not affect if you have applied formulas in your database, because basically your formulas will also change with the value when you move the field. So for example, if I have a formula that I reference field A5, but then I dragged it to D4 just I did, the formula will change it by itself as well. So there's no worries about that. And if needed for your fields to look in the manner that you would probably more visually appealing, you can always drag the width or even drag the height of your fields. So if for example, I would like the name part to be more important, I can always drag it bigger. Department, maybe I dragged it too much. Let me get it back here, and then make it bigger, make it wider, so that I have more place to enter data. So when users enter the text, it won't be broken into 2 rows. And if you don't want, sometimes you can also, basically sometimes you want in the same column or the same 2 columns, you want some fields to be wider, but some fields to be narrower. Like, I would say that one of the best ways to go with this is by using the merge cells function, which will allow you to have certain fields field value area to be wider in the number of cells. So for example, in the address part, I would like to make this field wider. I can just simply click on merge cells, and I'll be as wide as the 2 fields, the 2 columns combined. I'd say I'm just going to make it 4. So now I have basically like a whole address bar that can enter the address completely. And basically that's how you would like to basically format it in a way that you would like. And since sometimes you would also like to have your records to be in some ways unique. So since having a field unique, meaning that this record is completely, like, there's a special part to it. It is unique. It is kind of like all by itself. Now, making it unique will also be important when you're creating linking relationships in the future. So I would say that for this case, I can set the name as unique, so everybody has their own unique name. However, in some cases, you may have quite a few John Smiths in your organization. So if needed, you can always create an auto-generate field that will be the unique field. So I'm just going to call this number just employee number, just for short for saying the employee number. This can be an auto-generate, or you can allow the users to enter them by themselves. Now, if I make this auto-generate, this means that the users can generate a value based on the sequence rule that I've set up. For example, there are quite a few different rules, or I can also add a value saying E dash number from 001 to 5 to anything, like any number possible. And basically this field will be the unique field, and then which you can then execute link and load from. However, if you don't you want the users to enter them by themselves, but also making a link and load, let's make it back into a free text field and set it as unique and not empty. Now, when you set it as not empty, you'll see this red star sign. This means that to save this entry, users must enter a value in this field. and there's a key here. There's a kind of like a key icon here. It's saying that you cannot have duplicated values in this field. Now this will be really essential if you would like to execute link and load. For example, you may need to use link and load in a sales order to link it back to an employee's sheet. Now you would need it to be linked to a unique field. Again, let's save this for now. One other thing that you need to kind of sort of keep in mind when you're creating a database sheet is the location of subtable. So I'm just going to have this subtable called emergency contact list. So contact person, phone, email. Ooh, I also forgot the email part in the employee sheet. So this I can again add this whenever possible. Easily, just like adding. If you're used to processing on Excel, it's just simply entering a value in there. So now I have created 4 subtable fields in a subtable for other contact people. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is that the subtables, you should have it in the lower part of your sheet. If possible, the lowermost part of your sheet, because the subtables, since it is a one-to-many relationship and you can have quite a lot of subtable records in one independent record, it means that you might experience a whole load of subtable records, and that a lot of your other data will be pushed to the bottom if you have more fields. If you have more fields on the lower part of your sheet. So yes, just make sure that your fields are in the right place for your users to process. And one thing that is also important when creating a sheet is to simply use description fields wisely. So I'm going to add a few more rows, and then I'm going to add a few description fields, and I'm going to tell you how it can be very useful. So basically, if you need a description field, go to add components. There's quite a few different types of description fields. I'm just going to choose the most general one. So as you drag it in here, this is also one way to basically create a new field simply by dragging from add components. So as you drag in, it says some text to help users use the database. So I'd say there are 2 suggested ways to go with this. One is to simply create a title, and one is to use the description fields wisely as clues for the users to enter data in. So I'm going to create a title first, and of course, for the sake of kind of like visual design, I can change the column span, the font size, the font color, anything I would like. So I'm going to make this, actually black is a good one, and I'm just going to make it a light yellow background. Bigger font. And then again, change the value. Formation. Centralize this. And then again, another component for the subtable. Actually, red is a better color for emergency, I guess. Let me bold this as well. And when I say about the clues, so I was talking about the clues. So I'm going to, for example, about the E number, I'm going to put a description field right here. I'm just going to say must enter E number obtained from iteration. So after saving this, you'll see these fields, these description fields will be static on this sheet no matter what. But basically, I can set it. They can be the titles, or simply just like some clues to help users enter the database. Again, as mentioned, I will probably, since there is kind of like this line wrap, there's like a word wrapping thing, because this field is too small. I can drag this C column wider, so to make it kind of like look more straightforward, rather than having a lot of rows packed in a small cell. Or I can also add another column easily. Insert column, and just drag this here. And again, change the sizes of. Simply just change the size of every field, and if needed, just easily change the column spans. Because since I've just added another column now, if I would like this to be in an ideal format, then I would need to change the column spans of every column. Click on save. Click on save when you're completed. I would always suggest clicking on save when you're in a sort of a pause section, because sometimes you will just probably exit the screen unideally. Sometimes probably like a failed, like your browser has failed sometimes. And so if you're in a pause in the design, I would suggest saving the database design. And yes, the database design has now been saved. So after we have a general view of this new small employees sheet, and let's go to the form page first. So as you can see now, your users can now enter data, and then you see the fixed fields, the fixed description fields here, and is also in the format that you wish to have. So I'm just going to enter a few values here. E101. Department administration level 3. E1J. All right, I've just created two employees record. Of course, that for most companies, you definitely need to create more, and sometimes you will also need to allow your employees themselves to create basically their own information, to enter their own information. So make sure that is in a desired format you would like to use. And since in Ragic there is always a form page like this, and there's a listing page to list out all the data of your database, but it is always the general information. Now, one thing that is also important is to have your listing page designed in the correct format or in the desired format. So let's change the design. Since the listing page will only display the fields that you have designed on the form page, but you can select which fields to display. So I probably just want to display their name, their phone number, and their department, since I think that's their most important information. So I can just select the fields. And now I've just left 3 fields remaining. Of course, I can always drag this however I would like, or just change how I would like to display with different styles, such as changing the fonts, the background colors, the font colors. And also, now one thing that it can also help you to make your data more clear is to go with conditional formatting. So conditional formatting, it will basically change sounds like changing the actions or changing the display of your records in respect to the rules that you set up, is mainly regarding the field values. So for example, if department is marketing is checked, I want to set the value color of the whole row in this green color. And I can also add another new rule. Whoops. So basically what I've just done here is, if I can also add if 2 rules are matched. So basically if two rules are matched, and it will be set the background color as the whole row in the green. So if finance is checked, I'm just going to go with one row. I'm just going to go with one rule here, and I'll add another new rule from the top here. So if department is sales, I would like it to be of the whole row as yellow. Now I should apply those rules now correctly, and then save your design. Let's see what happens if I change the design right here. Finance. Now the values font color now becomes this green color, but I'd say I would like to have it in the background color rather than the font color. So again, I can easily change the rules in the design mode. Set background color instead of value color. Again, so basically when you after your testing and then you believe that there is error with your workflow, what's great with Ragic is that you can just easily go into the design mode and then change your design very, very easily, just simply with a few simple clicks, and basically with no codes used, as you may have previously. You may need an IT expert to use codes to change everything for you, but with Ragic you can all do this by yourself. Like personally, I've used no codes yet. So yes, now the name color is now changed, into this background color. I should have made it the whole row, but I'll do this next time. So now you can use the colors to distinguish the departments, which is presented on the name fields. Yeah, so basically now I have a simple employee sheet done, completed. And now I'm going to create another sheet with this one. I'm just going to do a sales order. And now one thing that when you're doing multiple sheets, with the sales order, I'm going to try to link it with the employee sheet that I've just created. Now, what you have to think in mind is what is a good linked field, that you would like to use on this sheet, and what's a good linked field to link to that other sheet you would like to use. So I'm going to quickly create a sales order. SO number. I like this to be an auto generate field. SO. By creator E number. Total and then grand total. So where's the money field? And now right here, I'm gonna show you how what I just said about link and load. So basically, I've just saved a simple sales order sheet. Of course, I will be making more modifications to the sheet later. So I'm going to go with link and load, I'm going to go to form tools, link and load. Linking to the employee sheet, I'm clicking on this sheet. And then now, since I have already designated the E number to be the unique field, or you can also link to other unique fields, but I would like to link it to the E number first, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. So this will be the link field, and then the loaded, and I'm going to enter the loaded fields. Email and then phone number. So with link and load, you can simply just link to an existing field on this sheet that you're trying to execute link and load with, or you can simply add fields from the link source to this field that you would like to use link and load. Again, exit. I'll probably need to reformat the design of my database first, since the fields are a bit packed, especially with the subtables and the subtable fields and independent fields linked too closely together. I want to move the subtable, yes. And now, since generally when you're moving a subtable field, you have to move the whole subtable row. So now it will ask you which cell you would like to put your first subtable field, and then it will then move your whole subtable in regards to the value you've entered, so A14. Actually, it should be A13, my bad. Since with A14, I've just blocked the grand total field. And what I would always say about using link and load is, since with link and load, you'll be selecting a record from another sheet and then populate all its related values. I would personally suggest to have your linked field before all your loaded fields, unless you have applied dynamic filtering with this link and load. Now, just basically dynamic filtering is, for example, I can pre-select a department, and then with this link, I can pre-select the department saying, oh, this has to be from an administration. And then when I use the link and load, it will only show the records with the people that are from administration. But definitely your linked field has to be, I would say the best be before all the loaded fields other than the dynamic filtering field. This is because the linked field you can only select from another sheet, but the loaded fields you can still enter values directly on this form, and basically you don't need to consider about the link and load. This might be causing confusions when you're trying to enter data, since you're uncertain about which field comes. You're uncertain about how these values are populated, which might cause some conflict with your data management. And also one thing is that, since you'll also be using formulas here, let me build a quick formula in the subtable here. Since basically talking about a sales order, to get the total and the grand total, I would always suggest if I set a formula here in this total field, I need to reference the fields that are before this field, since that will be the formula will be automatically populated in regards to the other fields that you've entered. And the lot, since I've mentioned before, basically the database, for many users, the database logic is from left to right and top to bottom. And if you enter data before, and then it'll automatically populate the values with the formulas after, that will be more straightforward for the users to go through. So I'm just going to set a quick formula here. I didn't build a product sheet for this because, yeah, that's not my main point today. I can just simply create my products myself. So this one will be C13. It'll actually B13 times C13. So I've referenced the fields before rather than after if I have fields after. So make sure you organize your fields in the correct order and take the link and load and formulas into consideration. And grand total, I'll be just referencing the total of the subtable field D13. And of course, as you go with your database, there will be more different conditions that you need to consider, such as you might have different types of formulas with different discounts in different conditions, which you may also need to use the if formula. The conditional if formula will be very helpful for these scenarios. So now I have a simple sales order, and then I'm just gonna create one really quickly for now for you guys to see how it kind of works right now. So when I click on new, this auto-generated field will generate a value regarding the sequence that I've set up. I'm just going to click on date, a customer name. Lee Trotter. And then remember my link field is to create an E number. So I can click here Just simply click on the record, and then it populates all its related information. All its related information here. And now let's see the formula. So I'm just gonna say book 410. So as I enter values before, the formula is all populated after. So this will be in more of a more straightforward format for the users to view in most cases. Of course, you might have some different scenarios that you might need to have formula values populated in the top of your sheet, but if that fits your database, then of course you can definitely go with that. But from my experience, it will be easier to have your data populated straightforward if you would like them to be automatically populated. And if, for example, let's save this for now. Also, that one thing that will happen in your database is to create a workflow, which means you may have quite a few different sheets that you would like to have it go from step 1, step 2, and step 3. Basically, the first thing you have to think about is how you would like your data to be, how you would like your workflow to be in regards to your sheet. So if, for example, you would like you have to think you would like to be a sales order converted into an invoice and another shipping order. You have to think about how you would like the workflow to be and what values you would like to be directly converted, or what values that you would like to be simply manually entered and then use link and load to link your data. So if we were to update values or convert records on another sheet, let me first duplicate this sheet, a blank sheet first. Oops. Let me just duplicate one with just simply a blank one. I'm going to call this invoice. I'm just going to do it quick. Change this design really quickly. Wait a moment. Auto. Set a default value here. Create date. So if I would like to convert a sales order into an invoice, I can create a button for it to do so. If I go with form tools, I can click to convert records. Convert to invoice. And I'm just going to auto map the fields to make it faster. Of course, you can also manually modify how your fields to be converted. So you would probably like a customer name field to be converted to another field that is probably related to a customer name, something related to that. And then you can also have some advanced settings. It will be also checking. Such as checking all the rules, open converted records, or you can simply lock the source record after conversion if you would like to. And everything after this is set up, you can just go click on create convert button and enter a name for it. Convert to invoice. Or if you probably have a matching value, for example, like the SO number, which is the unique field right here. since it's an auto-generated field, and it has to be unique since this value is created with a sequence. Update values. Whoops, this is update values on this sheet. I have to go to update values on another sheet. So sales order to invoice. So now you can select the fields that you would like to have to update, and make sure that if it's a numerical value, you can add the value, subtract the value to it. But for most cases, I select the equal value, since for most times you would just want to have one value populated onto another sheet, and if they are the same record. So if SO number matches the SO number, now I can create the update value on another sheet button. But before that, I can also check the advanced settings. Now I would say that when you're updating a value on another sheet, the advanced settings are really important, since you might need to add some workflows on another sheet. One thing that I think most people would like to use is to recalculate formulas in your target sheet, because if you're updating a value, you would probably a numerical value or any value regarding a formula, you'll probably want to recalculate it in the invoice sheet, in the target sheet, so everything is done automatically for you, saving you having to recalculate on that sheet, or even have to check the situations. So I'm going to select this and automatically run when saving. Now, if you select automatically run when saving, make sure that if you have not empty fields or any workflow is blocking, make sure that they will be processed correctly. I've encountered some cases where some users, because they've used multiple versions, they have hidden fields that are only displayed on another form, but those fields are hidden in this form, but the worst part is that they are also set as not empty. Now, that will block you from executing workflows, and that because you cannot save this entry. So make sure that this is also considered, especially when it comes to multiple versions or any, as mentioned, parent-child relationships. Create this button. And just since we're in action buttons part, there are also many other action buttons that you can just simply create. So you can add another action here. Whoops, save changes here. My bad. So action types. So these are just simply different actions that you can apply to with an action button here. And then after, say for example, I would probably say recalculation is one of most important buttons if you have a lot of formulas in your entry. And then click an action name, add action, save changes, and then save here. Now I have just 3 action buttons that I can execute if needed. So if I convert this to invoice, let's see what happens. So now I'm in the invoice sheet, as you can see from the top right here. Now that sales order is now converted into an invoice, and since I've also added another invoice number and invoice date field, these values are also automatically generated. Also, regarding different workflows, is that if you have quite a few different sheets, but you will only like your users to process on one certain sheet, for example, I want them to process everything from the sales order, and when it comes to converting to an invoice, they cannot change anything everything has to be done in the sales order, and they made a mistake, they have to do it from the sales order again. Now, what you can do is to just simply make all the fields as read-only. As you can see, there's an option saying making this field as read-only. Now, making it as read-only means that you cannot process this field on this sheet manually. Everything has to be done either from a workflow, like converting a record, or by automation such as formula, or simply by multiple versions, which means you probably have another multiple versions sheet processed from and then that is processed on there, but you cannot process on this invoice sheet because this is read-only. So that's what you need to watch out when you're going through quite a sort of like a workflow of a lot of different sheets. But basically, one thing you need to consider is what's best for you and what's best for your organization. Since you will be the one creating the database, you'll be the sysadmin, so you will probably have to think more about this. But the benefit of Ragic is that you can decide it by yourself how you would like to do this, rather than drawing a big picture with words to a software vendor and have them trying to design for you in terms of what you need, and then trying to communicate with them many times before actually having it go online. Basically, with Ragic, no codes needed. Go to the design mode to change or design anything, and you're done for your colleagues, for everyone in your organization. Now, since for most people, this could be the solo use, but basically you would probably like to collaborate with your other colleagues or even external users, such as vendors or partners. User settings is also very important, and in Ragic, the access rights can be controlled extremely comprehensively. So this is how you do them. Let's go to account setup. So this is where you add new users, and if you purchase more users, and you can simply add more to your database by clicking on the new button, enter the details, and just make sure that you must enter a unique email, which is they must have their own email, and a unique full name, because there's a special type of a field called a select user field, and since it is basically selecting a value from this user sheet, that field has to be in unique. So for example, if you have in some coincidental events, you may have two Mary Whites in your database. You need to distinguish their names. You probably need to add their middle name in them as well. And what's important in managing your access rights is the Ragic groups. Now, the Ragic groups, basically, there are quite a few groups where you can select from. These are the groups that you designate them in, and then your access rights of each sheet is controlled. It's selected by selecting the group's access rights. So I'm going to add. Let's go to my previous account. Let's say I'm going to go to this account. This account, I will set this. I can change this group as this account does not have sysadmin rights. He only has user and order processing group rights. And now this entry is now saved. So this account fcalcu@123@gmail.com, which is my other account, he can only access the sheets that has access rights assigned to order processing group and user group. Just for your information, if you're assigned to the sysadmin user group, it means that you have the total control of your database, meaning that you can access every sheet, every record, and you can redesign every sheet. So make sure that if you would like to have quite a few people designing your database, make sure that which people should have sysadmin rights and which people should only have other access rights. And regarding groups, you can always add user groups to make your access rights more comprehensive. So I've previously added five user groups. These 5 user groups are added manually, and you can just simply click on new and enter your group name, group description. So if you would like to make it extremely comprehensively for your users in your database, so they can have different access rights, it is even possible to have one user in one group if needed. That is how access rights work. And what's also important with access rights is the use of multiple versions, which is, I would say, one of the most important features in your Ragic in terms of how you would like to control your access rights. So I'm going to make a real multiple version of sales order, which I can click this downward arrow, duplicate sheet, and select to use the same data source on new sheet. Duplicate. Sales order. Access. Now, this is a different sales order. This is kind of like a different sales order sheet, but it still shares the same data with the original sales order sheet. Now, I would not like them to, for this access right, I would not like them to access the customer's personal information, so I can simply hide them, or I can just simply delete them. And they share the same data pool, so no matter how I like to rearrange this, for example, if I would like to rearrange these fields in another format, in another layout display, the data are still shared they're still shared in the same fields. They won't change. The data is completely synchronized. But what you need to watch out with multiple versions is that if you have fields that are referenced with formulas or other workflows, make sure that your data do not conflict with each other. This happens a lot with formulas, since one field, probably there's a situation where on one sheet, let's take this grand total field for example, another sheet has a different formula with this field, and now the values will be having a tough time in sync, which will cause to calculation errors. But this happens because the two formulas, they're not correct, they're not identical or create identical values, which means it can be one value that is correct and one value that is incorrect. So that's what it is. That's what's the issue that's happening. And also with multiple versions is that since this is a different version sheet, but the data that's synced to the other sheet, so make sure that the field settings, they do not kind of like conflict with each other. For example, when you create a new record on this sales order access rights modified sheet, you may have a field that you didn't enter a value, but coincidentally that field is a not empty field, which means you need to enter a value on this field in the other sheet. So for example, take this customer name. This, like right now, this is just a free text field with no additional field settings. But if I set it in the sales order part, in the original part, I would like this customer name field to be .empty. Now you would need to make sure that your data will then be processed in the correct be processed correctly if you're using another multiple versions, since your data might have some mistakes when it comes to two different versions with two different field settings. So what I would suggest is to have them use similar field settings as possible. So if it's not empty there, then this one should be also not empty here. This also goes with the unique, since it will also affect the other sheet, and just make sure that they are in the same format when it comes to them. But with read only and hidden, if needed, you can always have them in different formats, because with two different multiple versions sheets, you generally might have to need them with different field settings, because you would like your users to view and process their data differently. And just one final thing, you're probably wondering, how does multiple versions change your access rights for your users? Now simply just go to the form settings of each form. Even if there are multiple versions, you can still set different access rights. Now you have a lot of groups to choose from, and then you can set which not the external user, like for example, let's say order processing group, what access rights they can have. No rights, they can access the street as anyhow, anyway. Survey users, they can create and edit their own entries. Viewers, they can see all entries, but they can't do anything with them. Bulletin users, they can create and edit their own entries and view all the entries that are on this sheet, but unfortunately they can only edit their own entries because they're bulletin users. And the largest access right, or basically the most comprehensive access right, is being the admin, which means on this sheet they can create and edit all entries. So basically, if I set bulletin users on this sheet for the order processing group, I save, exit, I can still set a different access right for them on the original sales order sheet. So I just want to set them as no rights. Now this means that they have to process their data on this access rights modified sheet, but the same data source will be also populated on the original this sales order sheet. This is how you basically manage your access rights. And when it comes to different sheets, now your users can now process and view different fields of a single sheet in kind of like that, although there are multiple versions, but they're still sharing the same data pool with sharing your selected fields. So basically that's how the general logic with Ragic, the general logic of creating a Ragic database and creating a Ragic sheet. So just for review, well, first of all, creating a form, your fields should always be ordered from in a logical way from left to right and top to bottom, and try to make it not as wide as possible, so your users won't have to scroll to very extremely to the right and then they might have missed some fields. Make sure you put the subtable fields in the lower areas, so it doesn't kind of like conquer a large space on your sheet, because it has a lot of subtable records. And generally, most of the time, there are independent fields that are more important than subtable fields when you're processing data. And also, description fields are very useful for creating titles or creating clues for users, as you have seen on this employee sheet. Let's just go back to this sheet for review. See, like these are created from the description fields, and adds a static text to your sheet. And then there are always, remember to set the right field types, and then make sure you organize your listing page correctly, select which fields to display. And when it comes to multi-sheets, make sure you have you used your Lincoln loads correctly, with your linking field being earlier than most of the loaded fields most of the time. And when it comes to formulas, the formula should be set after your reference fields. And I do not want this Java update. I don't know what happened. And then after, finally, if you're creating a workflow, make sure you know the order of your sheets and how you would like to convert them. And user management, just simply set your access rights correctly. Use multiple versions wisely, display and set the correct field settings, and that is basically the fundamental logics, I would say, for creating a Ragic database by yourself. But again, just to reiterate, as I have done many times, with Ragic, you can simply do everything by yourself, design the database by yourself, change the database by yourself, set the formulas, set the rules, set the workflows, everything by yourself easily by just going into design mode of every sheet, or just go to account setup to change the setting of your database. These all can be done by yourself rather than an external IT partner who you need to probably try to communicate, and then they have to code with their expertise, but they might not understand you fully. With Ragic, as you have just seen, I've used no codes, but I could do everything easily by myself. And I can do this anytime, anywhere, as long as I have network connection. And that's basically it for today. And if you will, I'll be here for another few minutes if you guys have any questions regarding this webinar or simply using Ragic in general. And also, you can just type in your questions and I'll answer them verbally. And yes, thank you everybody for participating. And also, I'm also open for suggestions too. And feel free if you have any questions regarding this webinar or simply using Ragic in general. And I'll try to answer them vocally, or even build a quick example if you guys need. Or if you think your question will be a little bit complicated, you would need our Ragic support staff to have a better look at your database, at the scenario, at the situation that is happening. You can always click on the Need Help button to submit a support ticket. And then we'll be able to access your database and then see what's the issue to get back to you, or even try to fix the issue if there's unfortunately there's a bug or there's an issue with your sheets, with your database. But of course that is also that is helpful for us if we need a better look. And if you have any questions right now, just feel free to share with me, and then I can try to help you as fast as possible. I guess we don't have a lot of questions today, and I guess that's it for the webinar. And if you guys have any questions in the future, feel free to send an email to us or just simply submit a support ticket, as I mentioned, from the Need Help button. And also, if you guys would like to, you can also check out our videos in our Ragic YouTube channel, and also some other previous webinars are also there with different content, different information, such as building data relationships, sharing data from your database, internally and externally, or just simply how to start the basic database design. So that's it for today. Thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you next time.